With the new year upon us, just, not the new year we actually care about, it's time for my annual tradition of rating my personal top 5 cards. For viewers that haven't been with me since I was at a measly 300 subscribers, let's break down the categories. I'll be looking at 5 cards that I consider the greatest, the most fun, rewarding, and all-around successful cards released to the game without being overpowered. 5 more cards will get the most OP rating, those cards being the ones that provide naught but misery and shame to all who oppose them. Finally, 5 cards will be labeled the stupidest, for being cards that straight up have no purpose for existing. If they vanish from the game, the only noticeable effect would be that arena drafts would have slightly fewer terrible cards to pick from. And before you mention it in the comments, yes, this is very similar to Yahtzee's system. I'm proud to say that his show is probably the second greatest inspiration for my work. For this year, we'll be looking at the Witchwood, Boomsday, and Rastakhan sets for material, as well as those new classic cards. Compared to last year, all 3 of these sets were somewhat less polarizing, but rest assured that I can find 15 cards that meet the criteria I set out. But of course, if you think I missed one, let me know in the comments. Without further ado, let's begin. This is the top 5 greatest, most OP, and stupidest cards of the Year of the Raven. Witchwood brought with it 2 particular cards that everybody should know would make it on this list somewhere. When it comes to the number 5 spot of the greatest list, I can think of no better card to place here than Genn Greymane. Revolutionizing the way decks are created with its start of game effect, while still not being the worst 6-drop possible, this card provided a new method for mid-range to make use of. Be it Even Shaman being a powerful force lurking in the background of most metas this year, to Even Paladin declaring itself king every once in a while, to Even Mage and Even Warrior trying their best every once in a while, this card has proven itself to be a relatively positive force on Hearthstone, now and for years to come. And on the other side of this coin, Baku the Moon Eater. I consider the 5th greatest and 5th most OP positions to be soul siblings of a sort. Both cards not extreme enough to be further down the OP list, but not cool enough to be down the greatest list. And what better pairing for those 2 slots than Baku and Genn? While Baku boasts many of the same strengths as Genn, she also has a pair of significant weaknesses in terms of fun factor. The first being how polarized she makes her decks. Odd Warriors become invincible, Odd Paladins own the board, Odd Rogue crushes opposition, etc, etc. The second reason is that Odd decks include 3-drops, which, as I've mentioned in the past, Blizzard seems to favor in regards to power. Perhaps this is partially me punishing Baku for the sins of the father, but one way or another, this card experiences hate while Genn has love. Hence, its place on this list. Critique Rastakhan's Rumble all you like, but it's hard to deny it has incredibly few cards that were objectively dumb. Even their dumbest of dumb cards did have some inherent value behind them, oftentimes surpassing other dumb cards from dummies past. I believe in keeping a fair balance of these ratings, which means that at least one Rastakhan card must make this list. So, Gurubashi Chicken. I don't hate the card, but let's face it requires just a little too much to adequately work. Ergo, here it shall be, the least dumb of the list of most dumb cards because it was the most dumb of the least dumb set. Seems fair enough. So everyone, what was the last card you ever wanted to rejoin Standard? Correct answer. Now, what's a card that's eerily similar but behaves completely differently in every way?
I'm suiting up!
Also the correct answer. Of all the hero cards released this year, Dr. Boom is easily my favorite. While Hagatha proved to be a little too random, a little too slow, and a little too powerful, and Zul'jin pretty much just became Hunter's tactical nuke, Dr. Boom did what a good hero card should. It changed the game, but not to an extent that the game suddenly became unwinnable. But don't get me wrong, the main decks that our friend Boom fits into are polarized to a hilarious extent, which probably robbed this card of a higher spot on this list. But it's fair to say that Boom is easily the most fun and the most interesting part of those decks. Flanking Strike, a card that I have come to despise. After several metas of dealing with this card, I can finally give it the thrashing it deserves. This game-swinging, beast-summoning stain of an effects! I'm being told that Flanking Strike was released in Kobolds and Catacombs, therefore not qualifying for this video. Well then, what should I put into this spot? Okay, good enough. Baited Arrow, a card that on paper isn't actually that powerful, but in practice is painfully annoying. To break it down briefly, a 5/5 is just big enough to be incredibly frustrating to deal with, but just small enough that spending hard removal on it is a very disappointing option. And hunters get this minion on a bargain with a tempo swing kill to go along with it. All in all, this card is actually beautiful in its design, being one of the first cards I looked at that has led me to question my theories and practices. Rest assured I'll talk about it again on my top 5 Rastakhan cards I misrated video. But regardless, this card provides just a little too much bang for its buck. Enjoy number 4, you devilish Devilsaur. A game I like to play when looking for stupid cards is, if this card were 1 mana cheaper, could I make it work? This game is fantastic when it comes to unique card designs, since some of them, despite how cool they are, fail this test. And of all the Year of the Raven, one card reigns supreme when it comes to failing the most. Holomancer. This card was supposed to counter other cards in theory, but in practice the opponent would need to be playing a very specific deck for this to work. On top of that, that's all assuming the opponent can't kill a 5 mana 3/3. Oh wait, they can, that's what the last entry was. If this card were 4 mana, it would still see no play. At this cost, it absolutely never will. Guys, you remember what was super successful? The magnetic keyword. What? No, it wasn't? That can't be right, it was practically all that Boomsday was built around. I could have sworn at least one of the cards was able to make good use of it. Oh yeah, that one. While cards like Baited Arrow and Flanking Strike annoy me to no end by creating grand swing turns, Ziliax does the same thing in a much more digestible manner. If played with Rush, it's like a Flanking Strike with extra healing, plus 1 mana. If played without, it provides a lot of security. If buffed or resurrected, it provides the same all over again. And with mechs, it can be even more powerful. As unfortunate as the relative weakness of mechs were, I dare say that they may find a use in the upcoming year. And this card will be the tip of that spear. I've grown a lot as a Hearthstone player in the last year, and I've come to accept that aggro is a part of the game that will never fully fade and even offers its own flavor of enjoyment. That said, aggro has had to get its claws cut in the past, and can still get quite powerful in the form of an aggressive 3-drop. This year may have done the best when it comes to avoiding that, but there's one particular thing I keep thinking every time I face an odd rogue on turn 3. Anything but Henge Clan Thug, anything but Henge Clan Thug, anything but Henge Clan Thug, oh god damn it! And I don't think I need to explain myself further. This card is the card from this year that encapsulates aggro, and I dare say, a bigger reason for the main aggressive deck's success than Baku herself. If this never existed, Rogue would be a very different class today. Middle of the stupid list. Honestly, the hardest slot I needed to fill for this whole video. The whole year was pretty balanced and focused on a theme of cards being strong in the right circumstances. Even Gurubashi Chicken has a highlight on Trollden. But the list must go on, so I dug and pondered before eventually coming up with a solution. I'd just take the card that currently has the lowest played win rate. That card is Fiendish Circle, which by most accounts is perfectly balanced if used with the right cards. But hey, the stats don't lie. This is a good point in the video to mention how proud I am of the Year of the Raven. While its sets boasted smaller teeth than previous ones, they were also lacking in particularly weak cards. It's almost like Blizzard have figured out after 4 years how to, gasp, balance the game. That optimistic thought aside, let's move on. My favorite deck in all of Hearthstone is Control Paladin, and while its new variations have gone in a more OTK direction, I still welcome its return. The pieces that have allowed this deck to finally be relevant again are plentiful, and one will probably be mentioned later, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. One of the main reasons that the deck was able to succeed was because of decent control cards that Blizzard seeded into the game before the Rastakhan push, and the best designed one of these was Crystalsmith Kangor. Decent enough if played on curve, giving a durable body with healing on the side, this card excels further if saved and used in conjunction with other powerful pieces. Does it complete the dream? Certainly not, but it does provide a valuable, unique, and balanced piece to complete the puzzle, while also being a unique card in other decks. The card that encompasses everything that I love about Hearthstone is Ragnaros. It can be strategized around both when using it and facing off against it, but in the end there is a roll of the dice present, which complicates strategy and always leaves a feeling of excitement. However, one thing that I never wanted was for Ragnaros to cost 1 less mana and summon a 4/4 alongside it. But hey, we got Jan'alai anyways. Now, of course there's the caveat present to make this happen, so surely it wouldn't be that bad. Then, an odd mage shows up and I'm being purged by fire by turn 7. How, I wonder? They haven't used their hero power 8 times. Then I read the fine print and realize that odd mage only has to use its hero power 4 times. Plus it's already incentivized to use it as much as possible. It's around this point that I go, that's complete bullshit! With Witchwood's release, I called out a few cards for being particularly pointless, highlighting Snap Freeze just because it was a buffed version of another terrible card. But I'll be honest, a different Witchwood card takes the cake for misguided design. Deadly Arsenal. Let's break it down. Weapons with high attack need a very particular design to not be broken, which makes them uncommon. You draw these uncommon weapons, this card becomes useless. Meanwhile, no small weapons allowed, no minions on your side of the field allowed, happy hunting. A deck where this card is okay can hypothetically exist, but I bet $5 it never will, and $100 that it will never be viable. From the ground up, this card was designed in the wrong direction. Picture it for me, young Padawan. The perfect card, one that can conquer aggression without oppressing midrange, one that has strong synergies, but not easily exploitable ones. A card that every player can look at and go, yes, this card is balanced and fair, and I cannot stay angry at it. That card, my sweet apprentice, does not exist. A Witchwood Grizzly comes pretty close. Being a part of a tribe and strong for its stats leaves this card open to many synergies, while its limitation allows it to stop aggro while still being weak to rival control. This allows it to be a beautiful card for a combo midrange deck, which Hunter has been able to make work wonders, while Druid and Priest haven't. Maybe next year. All in all, this is one of the defensive cards that Blizzard has printed that touched upon new design space, and did its job without becoming overpowered. A feat that certain other cards they printed this year haven't been able to boast. Timeouts. Penniless, people aren't complaining too terribly about timeouts. Ah ha ha ha. Oh, Timmy, trust me, they will. I don't actually hate timeouts. I think the card does its job perfectly nicely and is a significant reason Control Paladin has returned. But a year ago I posted a video defending Ice Block, a card generally reviled for delaying games that otherwise should have ended. Timeout has that same flaw while also having even more versatility with weapon combinations and the like. This card will certainly remain prevalent for its entire tenure, never leave relevance in Wild, and will go down in history as one of those cards that warps the game in its users' favor, to the delight of some, and frustration of others. I'm sure some of you are wondering, which of these expansions with their admittedly nice balance managed to print the dumbest card of the year? Witchwood with its starting year slowness? Boomsday's lack of impact? Rastakhan and its Rastakanning? The answer to this question is none of them. The reward for Mostest Stupidest card goes to Icicle, brought in to replace Ice Block from the classic set. Blizzard! How many times must we teach you this lesson? Nobody damages frozen minions! The only reason Ice Lance was good was because it could go to face. And now you bring in this card, which acts like Novice Engineer and Shatter had a baby, and the baby was an idiot! An idiot that doesn't know if it wants to be a freeze mage or a control mage when it grows up, so it settled for being terrible at both of those things. You disappoint us, Blizzard. How dare you print this card? A shame upon Hearthstone. Shame, shame. Though honestly, I can't fault you guys too hard since practicality-wise it wouldn't make much sense for this new class card to be powerful. But regardless, shame!